What is Art by Leo Tolstoy, published in 1897. Art is one of the means of intercourse between man and man. Every work of art causes the receiver to enter into a certain kind of relationship, both with him who produced or is producing the art, and with all those who simultaneously, previously, or subsequently receive the same artistic impression. Speech, transmitting the thoughts and experiences of men, serves as a means of union among them, and art acts in a similar manner. The peculiarity of this latter means of intercourse, distinguishing it from intercourse by means of words, consists in this: that whereas by words a man transmits his thoughts to another, by means of art he transmits his feelings. The activity of art is based on the fact that a man, receiving through his sense of hearing or sight another man's expression of feeling, is capable of experiencing the emotion which moved the man who expressed it. To take the simplest example, one man laughs, and another who hears becomes merry. Or another man weeps, and another who hears feels sorrow. A man is excited or irritated, and another man, seeing him, comes to a similar state of mind. By his movements, or by the sounds of his voice, a man expresses courage and determination, or sadness and calmness, and the state of mind passes on to others. A man suffers, expressing his sufferings by groans and spasms, and this suffering transmits itself to other people. A man expresses his feelings of admiration, devotion, fear, respect, or love to certain objects, persons, or phenomena, and others are infected by the same feelings of admiration, devotion, fear, respect, or love to the same objects, persons, or phenomena. And it is on this capacity of man to receive another man's expression of feeling and experience those feelings himself that the activity of art is based. If a man infects another or others directly, immediately, by his appearance or by the sounds he gives vent to at the very time he is experiencing the feeling, if he causes another man to yawn when he himself cannot help yawning, or to laugh or cry when he himself is obliged to laugh or cry, or to suffer when he himself is suffering, well, this does not amount to art. Art begins when one person, with the object of joining another or others to himself in one and the same feeling, expresses that feeling by certain external indications. To take the simplest example, a boy, having experienced, let us say, fear on encountering a wolf, relates this encounter, and in order to evoke in others the feeling he has experienced, describes himself, his condition before the encounter, the surroundings, the wood, his own lightheartedness, and then the wolf's appearance, its movements, the distance between himself and the wolf, etc. All this, if only when the boy was telling the story, again experiences the feelings he had lived through and infects the hearer and compels them to feel what the narrator has experienced. That is art. If even the boy had not seen a wolf, but had frequently been afraid of one, and if, wishing to evoke in others the fear he had felt, he invented an encounter with a wolf, and recounted it as to make his hearers share the feelings he experienced when he feared the wolf, that would also be art. And just in the same way it is art, if a man, having experienced either the fear of suffering or the attraction of enjoyment, whether in reality or in imagination, expresses these feelings on canvas or in marble so that others are infected by them. And it is also art if a man feels or imagines himself feelings of delight gladness, sorrow, despair, courage, or despondency, and the transition from one to another of these feelings, and expresses these feelings by sound, so that the hearers are infected by them and experience them as if they were experienced by the composer. The feelings with which the artist infects others may be various, very strong or very weak, very important or very insignificant, very bad or very good, feelings of love for native land, self-devotion, and submission to fate or to God expressed in a drama, raptures of lovers described in a novel, feelings of voluptuousness expressed in a picture, courage expressed in a triumphal march, merriment evoked by a dance, humor evoked by a funny story, the feeling of quietness transmitted by an evening landscape or by a lullaby, or the feeling of admiration evoked by a beautiful arabesque. It is all art. If only the spectators or auditors are infected by the feelings which the author has felt, it is art. To evoke in oneself a feeling one has once experienced, and having evoked it in oneself, then, by means of movements, lines, colors, sounds, or forms, expressed in words, so to transmit that feeling to others that may experience the same feeling, this is the activity of art. Art is a human activity consisting in this, that one man consciously, by means of certain external signs, hands on to others feelings he has lived through, and that other people are infected by these feelings and also experience them. Art is not, as the metaphysicians say, the manifestation of some mysterious idea of beauty or God. It is not, as aesthetical physiologists say, a game in which man lets off his excess of stored up energy. It is not the expression of man's emotions by external signs. It is not the production of pleasing objects, and above all, it is not pleasure, but it is a means of union among men, joining them together in the same feelings, and indispensable for the life and progress toward well-being of individuals and of humanity. As, thanks to man's capacity to express thoughts by words, every man may know all that has been done for him in the realms of thought by all humanity before his day, and can, in the present, thanks to this capacity to understand the thoughts of others, become a sharer in their activity, and can himself hand on to his contemporaries and descendants the thoughts he has assimilated from others, as well as those which have arisen within himself, so, thanks to man's capacity to be infected with the feelings of others by means of art, all that is being lived through his contemporaries is accessible to him, as well as the feelings experienced by men thousands of years ago. And he has also the possibility of transmitting his own feelings to others. If people lacked this capacity, to receive the thoughts conceived by the men who preceded them, and to pass on to others their own thoughts, men would be like wild beasts, or like Caspar Hauser. And if men lacked this other capacity of being infected by art, people might almost be more savage still, and above all, more separated from, and more hostile to one another. And therefore the activity of art is a most important one, as important as the activity of speech itself, and as generally diffused. We are accustomed to understanding art to be only what we hear and see in theaters, concerts, and exhibitions, together with buildings, statues, poems, novels, but all this is but the smallest part of the art by which we communicate with each other in life. All human life is filled with works of art of every kind, from cradle song, jest, mimicry, the ornamentation of houses, dress and utensils, up to church services, buildings, monuments, and triumphal processions. It's all artistic activity. So that by art, in the limited sense of the word, we do not mean all human activity transmitting feelings, but only that part which we, for some reason, select from it and to which we attach special importance. This special importance has always been given by all men to that part of this activity which transmits feelings flowing from religious perception, and this small part of art they have specifically called art, attaching to it the full meaning of the word. Well, that was how men of old, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, looked on art. Thus did the Hebrew prophets and the ancient Christians regard art. Thus it was and still is understood by the Mohammedans, and thus it is understood by all religious folk among our own peasantry. Some teachers of mankind, as Plato in his Republic, and people such as the primitive Christians and the strict Mohammedans and the Buddhists, have gone so far as to repudiate all art. Well, people viewing art in this way, in contradiction to the prevalent view of today, which regards art as good if only it affords pleasure, consider that art, as contrasted with speech, which need not be listened to, is so highly dangerous in its power to infect others against their wills that mankind will lose far less by banishing all art than by tolerating each and every art. Evidently, such people were wrong in repudiating all art, for they denied that which cannot be denied, one of the indispensable means of communication without which man could not exist. But not less wrong are the people of civilized European society of our own class and day in favoring any art if it but serves beauty, i.e., if it gives people pleasure. Formerly, people feared lest the works of art there might chance to be some causing corruption, and they prohibited art altogether. Now, they only fear lest they should be deprived of any enjoyment art can afford, and patronize any art. And I think the last error is most grosser than the first, and that its consequences far more harmful.